I'm just looking for the clock. There we go. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Really exciting video today. I have a new instructor on the channel, somebody that is new to Be Better Golf, but has been involved in golf for many years, his entire life, and has this awesome way of teaching that he does it in an old school way, but it's lining up with everything that science is starting to discover 130 years later about golf. So he's with us now. It's Mike. Mike, say your whole name for us, just so we know how to say it.
Well, Michael Mangiaracina, the stage name is Monty that my dad picked. When he was playing the tour, they couldn't say his name either. So he picked the name of his favorite singer at the time. It was Lou Monte, and he shortened it from Salvatore Mangiaracina to Sal Monte. So everybody in the golf business, I grew up knowing me as Mike Monty. But
Right. So on YouTube, it's Monty's Golf.
correct.
Right.
Named after my dad, yeah.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk. So Monty has some great thoughts about how to get better at golf that you guys are going to want to hear. Let's get a little bit into your history with golf in Miami and the characters that you were around, and then kind of your lineage when it comes to teaching.
Sure. If you love golf, I was beyond blessed and beyond lucky. When I was born in 64, I'm 61 years old. When I was born, Dad was still on the tour. He had joined in 61. He had Melhorn met him. Wild Bill Melhorn spotted my dad in New York when my dad was about 18. I guess that was 1954 or so. Yeah. So when I was born, he was already around Bill for 10 years. And, when you're a kid, you don't realize where you are or who's around you. You just think it's normal. But as the years went by, and I realized, with Golf Digest and newspaper reporters and famous tour players calling my dad's golf course looking for Bill, because Bill was always at my dad's. My dad left the tour in 67, became a feared money player on the Miami Beach gambling circuit. And what happened was this guy, Ben Novak, who owned the Fontainebleau Hotel, said to my dad, "Hey, I just finished building a golf course. You're the director of golf." So with that said, took Bill there with him. So I was probably 6 when that happened. So I had 36 holes, a practice facility, golf carts, Wild Bill Melhorn and my dad raising me and grooming me to be a champion, never with the intention to be in the golf business or to teach, but to compete. So from a young age, I developed this golf swing unconsciously. When I tell you unconsciously, at 16, I was already breaking 70, but I didn't know why or how. I would just not understand why a guy couldn't hit a fairway or a green. And I would look at the hole on the putting green and draw the putter back and it would go in. So it wasn't until I started to compete and was on the road by myself and Bill Melhorn passed away and I was away from my dad, that I started to need to understand what was going wrong when it went wrong. So I reflected on his teachings all the time. Now, he passed when I was 25. I turned pro when I was 22. I I remember fellow professionals, some of who've made the tour successfully, from Stephen Ames to Scott Gump to Lee Jansen, Bruce Fleischer, who was older than us, always saying to me, "Well, why aren't you out here yet?" And I try to tell my friends and my family and my peers, there's a lot more to hitting fairways and greens. It's like canning the putts and managing your mind successfully for 4 days in a row. Having permission from within to go ahead and capitalize on what you're capable of. But getting back to my upbringing, we were never, ever, ever told anything about some of the things I'm hearing today. And, I'll call them 5-year increments starting at, say, 1980. Every 5 years, it seems like there's a new way of expressing movement of a golf club and how to get somebody to do it. And it used to upset me tremendously. I think I'm more upset now, but I'm more mature now on how I'm handling it. I feel bad for the golfing public it's at an all-time high, the amount of, let's call it, baloney. Now, I say this, all professionals that are in the business, you're my friend. You love golf, so you're my friend. And you weren't as fortunate as me to be brought up by the guy Ben Hogan called the best he ever saw, and the guy that Ben Hogan went to for help, Jackie Burke, Mickey Wright, Byron Nelson, Gene Littler. Seve. I mean, they went to him because he kept it very simple. And I try to do it the same for beginners as the young professionals that call me for help. Are you gripping it like Harry Vardon in the fingers? And are you squeezing the club? If you're in the fingers, truly in the fingers of both hands, and you're not clutching down with your palms, you have a great chance of having muscles and joints at ease with your arms. Now, if your muscles and joints are at ease with your arms, they're now depending on a pivot to swing them and initiate their movement and swing them up. Depending on how big you pivot, that will determine how high they go. But now you're depending on them to move. You're depending on gravity for the change in direction combined with you unwinding at the right time. But it really comes down to such simplicity: the correct grip from a good posture, decent ball position, and a pivoting action that initiates and delivers the arms. I don't have to tell my club to stay low going back. I don't have to tell myself preset my hands. I don't have to tell myself to cock my wrist. I don't have to tell myself to shallow, which I've heard too many times this year. There's a lag that occurs like a baseball pitcher's arm lags when he changes direction. He's not commanding it mentally. He's not mentally directing it. So I think back in the days of from Bob Tosky to Mac O'Grady and all this P stuff, when you make anybody conscious of their movements, and it's not just golf, they lose any chance of ever achieving fluidity, which is what everybody wants, a repeating fluid action that's mindless. Our job is to get a student to have good fundamentals so that he can pick the right club, decipher what the architect's looking for, play a high percentage shot, but visualize the flight and pull the trigger. If you're out there mentally directing your action, you're done. You're out of business. I'll tell you a story. Melhorn was watching me hit golf balls from the window at the pro shop. And mind you, he was 91 when he passed, so he was probably in his 80s when this happened. He couldn't get in the golf cart fast enough and drive up to the practice tee to say this to me right in my face. How can you be so damn stupid? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, what do you mean by, can I stand up and do this for you?
Sure, yeah.
He caught me standing up to the ball and staring at the ball. He said, what in the heck is going on in your head that you're staring at this golf ball? You're supposed to be looking down the fairway, picturing the flight, and pulling the trigger. He said, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand over here, walk up to the ball, hit it, and keep walking. And then he said, somewhere between that and what I saw you doing is naturalness and you being mindless. So I say, even if you're thinking of all the correct things, let's say you have that high-speed camera, you're in one of those lab coat tech rooms, and you're telling the person all the right things about what's a plane, what a release looks like. The fact that you have to mentally direct it, it makes it wrong. I'd rather you be missing a couple of things and not be thinking of mechanics, and I have a chance of getting you fluid. But let's talk about what you asked me before. What starts the golf swing? The answer is very simple. What starts any movement when you're throwing or hitting something? So if I have a tennis racket, do I ever say to myself, move my arm, keep it low, cock my wrist? No, I pivot and the racket moves. If this was an axe, it's 60 pounds. I pick it up, I pivot, and it swings back. If it's a fungo I'm hitting with a baseball bat, I pick it up and move. If I'm boxing, if I'm throwing a javelin, you name it, the pivot carries this. Now, this absurd thing that's going on, it's new, level-shouldered, on top of the ball, keep your foot down. That hurts. Not only does it hurt, it's unnatural. Not only is it unnatural and it hurts, but if you're not holding a lofted club, you're going to catch hell trying to hit that ball in the ass. You're going to be hitting down on it. And the shafts were designed longer and longer and longer so that we, without thinking, with the right grip, when we pivot, it duplicates the shaft angle it began on. So the driver will be the flattest plane. The sandwich will be the most upright plane. But the idea is if I pivot and I have the right grip, that'll be so without thinking. But if you have me staying on top of the ball, dipping and keeping this foot down, you tell the average human being to keep their foot down and their head still, they're going to dip and they're going to sway a little. If you let the people say, well, you lift your left foot up. I say, I never lift my left foot up. Here's what I do. I pivot and I let it respond to my pivot. If I make a big pivot, it moves big. If I make a small pivot, it moves small, but it's getting light. Yet, I never violated this boundary. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's not the Mike Monty or the Monty's golf method, and it's not the Melhorn method. It's what does the body do in every athletic action, and let's do that. It's just another weapon. It's not a new move, is my point. And at no time are we conscious of the movements in all those other sports. Why be conscious in golf? You know, I tell the story about Dan Marino watching me hit balls and say, Mike, I'll give anything to hit the ball like that. I said, well, Dan, I'd give anything to throw the ball like you do. I said, but here's what you're up against, Dan. You're a world-class athlete. You're asking me, why do you suck at golf? And I'm going to tell you the reason. When you say hike in a football game, you immediately are responsible for reading the defense and reacting to what you see. And you got three guys running a pattern. You're picking which one's best, and you're going. At no time did you know where your balance was, where your weight was, how far your arm went back. You're reacting. Just like if I ask you, Brandon, to toss some balls into a bucket, you're not thinking about how hard you're holding the ball, when you let it go, how far you went back, where your weight was. Well, that's how we have to play golf. Visualize and react. But Mike, there's nothing to react to in golf. The ball's stationary. Exactly. That's what makes it so damn tough. It's inviting you to let the enemy in, which is thinking, and thinking produces tension. How do we get rid of that? That's where the grass cutting drill came in, because Bill would make you cut grass, and then he'd ask you, did you try to cut that blade of grass, or did it merely get in your way? Well, it just got in my way. He says, well, that's not a golf ball. It's a dandelion. Let it get in your way. That
So
was
for
one.
people that grew up cutting grass just with a lawnmower, what is a grass whip or what is the grass cutting
Well,
drill?
funny or not, believe it or not, we used a mid iron, a 5-iron, but there was a true temper shaft that's still sold in the hardware store. It looks like a golf shaft, but it has a thin blade that's about this long. And before weed eaters and lawnmowers, you would swing it back and forth to cut tall grass. So I think Spalding sent a bunch of them to Harvey Pennick and to Bill Melhorn. Harvey and Bill both enjoyed them, but Bill, in a sarcastic way, wrote back, "Take these things back. I'm losing all my students."
Right, right.
Because
it works.
it also gave a student rhythm. Because when you're cutting grass, you naturally won't do this. Keep your arms straight, keep your head down. You'll naturally start pivoting and pivoting. And you'll just keep moving back and forth, cutting grass. And then Bill used to line up balls, and they'll be waiting for me, and he'd say, okay, now clip the balls. So these are some of the things that I was given as tools to, Kevin Michaels is a friend of mine. He said, Mike, you don't even teach the golf swing. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you teach fundamentals that have it immerse. It appears as a result of a few fundamentals. I said,
Okay.
I'm gonna quote that.
Yeah. So tell me, just going backwards a little bit.
Sure.
Tell me if somebody would say, what is the Melhorn method of teaching, and then also how, and also give me a little bit of history of Bill Melhorn and like what age was he? I know that he did some other sports first, and then what age was he when he started golfing, and then how do you think he got so good?
Okay, I'll tell you. Bill Milhorn was born in 1898. He was born in Elgin, Illinois. His dad was a bricklayer. He loved baseball tremendously. It was his first love till he passed. He loved baseball more than golf. He got a job at caddying. He was making clubs for Hillsbrick and Bradsby when they were hickory shafts, and forged irons would be shipped over from England, and he would actually design clubs for Hillsbrook and Bradsby. There's even sets out there still that say his name, Bill Melhorn, on them. As a high teenager, maybe 18, 19, maybe younger even, he was under the wings of Mr. Varden, Harry Varden. And Harry Varden saw the talent, but said to him, and I have an article I could show you where Melhorn quotes this. He says, Bill, if you don't stop swinging as hard as you do, you're never going to you're never going to get this. You're not going to win. And he said, I want you to use 2/3 of your potential effort. And that's when Bill had a run between 1920 and 1930 of 43 victories. He was the top 10 money winner every year, and I think he was the top money winner for 3 years. He had a little bit of a issue with alcohol, which contributes to why he was the world's worst putter that whole time. So if you can imagine being labeled the worst putter anybody ever saw, and in the same sentence, somebody saying he's the best I ever saw tee to green, that's how alcohol can affect your nerves on the greens. But Bill, in that time, was friends with Babe Ruth, and they actually made more money, those guys, playing cards at night than they did on the tour. But he's a founding member of the tour. He was on the first Ryder Cup team. He was a world champion bridge player, had a tremendous photographic memory. Probably didn't graduate the 8th grade, but he was really brilliant. And when you talk about people that went to him, Hogan was fighting a vicious hook. I think there was only 2 people, and Bill was one of them, that Hogan would trust with his golf swing. And if you look at Mickey Wright's finish and Hogan's finish and Babe Saharis's finish and Jackie Burke's finish, you'll see his thumbprint on their finishes. They all look a little different doing the same thing, but in the finish, you'll see somebody who can't hit it left. And that, the ball working right to left and a hook made Melhorn's stomach sick. He said the natural flight of the golf ball was a fade. And if you go to my YouTube channel, I actually have a phone conversation between Hogan and Melhorn and my dad. They're talking about the new Apex irons at the time. I was just a little kid. But Ben Hogan did ask Bill on the phone, Bill, you still hitting that fade? And he said, you betcha, I'll never get rid of that.
Okay,
But that
good.
fade leads to money. That's how the saying came about, hit the fade and get paid. When your ball's running right to left, it's very hard to not lose control of it under duress. It'll turn into a hook. Whereas a fade, if you mishit it a little bit, it's weak and short, but it's not running out of bounds. You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you specifically about that, because a lot of times people don't like to hit the fade. I've seen 2 ways. I've seen, like, there's the amateur fade, which goes shorter than a draw. But then there's a professional fade that even Dustin Johnson and some of the pros have learned that goes just as far, if not further. So what is the difference between that amateur fade and then the pro fade, like Hogan, the Hogan fade, some people call it?
Absolutely, and I do want to talk about that, and I will right now. But I don't let me forget to talk to you about the misconceptions about what a release is.
Okay, sure.
And you know,
we can go anywhere you want with it.
excellent. So when an amateur hits a fade, it's usually a result of holding the club too firmly and the arm being artificially locked, and the club is meeting impact all like that. There's no late shaft, and they have this is a 4-iron. Their 4-iron at impact is probably like a 5-iron, and the face is open, and they're really adding loft, and I call it a bucket of feathers. It's like taking a bucket of feathers and going like this. The ball is so weak, the flight. When you can trap the ball as a result of this lag that's created by changing direction with the hips and soft arms, when you're trapping the ball and you're just working across it this way just a little as you strike it, you can hit a fade and still get that piercing flight and not lose the distance. Now, if you remember Chichi Rodriguez, that was one of Dad's roommates that he traveled with on tour in the 60s. When Dad left the tour, he taught Chichi for another 20 years. When I say teach, he didn't spend every day with him. But the Florida swing, the Florida circuit, Chichi would fly in a week before Doral, spend some time with my dad, after Doral, during the Inverary Classic, and then before the Citrus Open. But Dad got Chichi to tee the ball like 4 inches high. Now, back then, it was persimmon. It was a steel shaft and a Bellata ball. So what Dad talked about to Chichi was, if you take a tennis racket and you try to cut it, you can cut it. But can you cut it on the upswing and tumble it at the same time? So moving the ball left to right and have it tumble. So Chichi would hit this beautiful launched ball that would go out moving left to right, but it was tumbling forward at the same time. It was a slider. And that's the fade a tour player will hit. It's not going out there and backing up like a 5-iron or a 6-iron. It's tumbling. Um, Describing what takes place within a 1.5 second action is not easy. I forbid my students to think about it. I'll talk about it with you, no problem, but you're not to think about it. So we like to say, hey Joe, you're very steep. Let's find out what's causing it and fix that. Let's fix the cause. Let's not say to you, Joe, you're steep, get flatter. That's not the answer. The answer is to find out why the guy's vertical and chopping at it. So when we talk about what a great golf shot feels like, it feels like, and anybody who played ping pong or tennis can relate to this, it feels like you're about to cut it and you're putting topspin at the same time. And if you watch my right hand, I never, ever, ever, ever spend this, ever. So I'm going to back up. I don't know if how much of my swing you can see.
Yeah, all of it. As long as you're past the chair, we got it.
That good?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So when we're holding it, like Hogan and Varden, and I've got this club in the fingers, I've got a V in the middle, I've got this knuckle on the side. See it? Okay. And I'm not pressing down on this thumb with my right hand. It's just sitting, it's just floating here. It's just sitting here. When we have that, and I pivot and unwind, that shaft lags and it gets slightly flatter. When that happens, just like a ball player changing direction, when that happens, I never give that up. What happens is this. Goes back to Melhorn's letter U drill, which a lot of people have seen online. It looks like this. Melhorn said that the arms go up on the sockets, down on the sockets, and up on the sockets. There is no right and left in golf at all. Zero. It's an illusion. And the illusion's created by me doing this, initiating it with a pivot. So this and a pivot is this.
Mm-hmm.
This and a pivot is this. My arms are always going up on the sockets, down, and back up. So when they go up, I'm doing this to the ball. Nobody sees it because as I strike it, the club's moving in front of me. It's over here. So it looks like I did this. I did not do this. That looks like this at impact. I was like this at impact. And I was like that here, and here, and here, and here, and here. It's forever concave. And you don't take my word for it because I didn't win the British Open, but everybody bought Greg Norman's secret. It was a black, hardened piece of plastic you put your hand in, and it kept you concave. But nobody knew how to use it. And if you do the bad one, you'd hurt yourself because it restricted your ability to do the bad one. So Greg Norman's secret, if you look at it, you were permitted to do this. Now add a hip turn to that. There's your follow through. And there is Mickey Wright, Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson. Look at it.
So you're saying if you try to retain this angle, like in Greg Norman's secret,
you'll slice the crap out of it if you don't revolve it up.
But if you try to retain this, but don't really turn your hips very much and just thrust your hands at it, that's when this could rip your hand off the thing.
Let's get into the cause of the flip because you just brought it up and you mean
it's on my list. Yeah.
When I'm teaching a lot, let's say I have 10 lessons in one day. I would say if the 10 were brand new, 9 of them look like this at impact.
Mm-hmm.
One reason is physical, another is mental. Here's the physical. They were told, keep your head still. They were told, don't lift your left foot up. They were told, move laterally. They're stuck. It's like an inside pitch. You're jammed up. You're going to hit a foul ball to first. The athlete in them flips it to save it from going dead right. This is in the way. Athletically speaking, if the ball rolls to them, it's pitched underhanded like a bowling ball. As that ball is approaching, their left hip will do this. It'll be out of the way. And this won't have a reason to flip. It may stay like this because of tension, but it's not going to flip. When an amateur takes a practice swing, you'll see this moving. Here's their practice swing. It's moving. Then they go to hit a ball and you'll see their hips pause at impact. And then they try to move. What is that? Well, it goes back to the stationary ball. When the ball is stationary, we subconsciously stop to assist. So even after I get a guy moving his hips or a girl moving their hips at the right time, there's a habit when the ball's there of slowing down the core for the sake of impact. Now, here's where Melhorn was brilliant. Hey, Mike, and remind you, he wouldn't talk like I'm talking to you. It's my father that put it into an understandable language. But Melhorn would see you flip and he'd say, do me a favor, touch your left ear. Now pivot and go touch your left ear. Now address the ball and go to your left ear. He would get your mind. He would change your paradigm. He would get your mind on finishing by your left ear with your right hand.
Yeah.
He would take it away from being impact oriented and worrying about impact. So he said to me, Mike, I've never hit a golf ball in my life. And I'd say, what do you mean? Well, I'm swinging to my ear. The ball's in my way. You are hitting the ball. I'm letting the ball get in the way. There's a big difference. And it's all here. So beautiful grip, beautiful stance, beautiful pivot initiating, beautiful pivot delivering. But the mind is still obsessed with impact. That's a problem. So we overcome that. Left ear. Left ear. Left ear. I pivot ear. That ball got in my way.
Let me ask you a question that kind of goes with that.
Anything you want.
Yeah. So a lot of people look really great when they're doing continuous swing. So you guys have the grass whip thing. I know that this one golf biomechanics person called Dr. Kwan, he really loves continuous swings. That's the number one thing that he tries to get people to do. And when you see them, if you just took out, let's say they do a 50 continuous swings in a row. If you took out any one of those and made it a loop, that would look really good. But then when the ball is sitting still and they have to go from a dead stop to then make a swing and make just one swing, not 50 in a row, all the athleticism goes away. So like when your dad was teaching or Bill or yourself were teaching, if you have a golfer that is making a pretty good athletic continuous swing, how do you get them to then get that flow into a one-off one swing?
That's a great question. I answered it. I kind of answered it already, but I'm going to add some and review that. So the question is why when people are taking practice swings back and forth, whether they're doing the grass cutting drill or this bioengineer chemist, whatever they're doing, they're not thinking of the ball flight. They don't have a ball in front of them that they're trying to get to leave the earth into the air and perform a flight. They're free. That's why Bill would line up balls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a line and have me treat them. He would say, those aren't golf balls, Mike. Those are dandelions. He was programming my mind that ball's in the way, just like a blade of grass was in my way. I didn't stop and help the grass get cut. But why is it that when people address a ball, all of a sudden the athleticism goes out the window? Well, that I could tell you my Michael Jordan story. And it was just an example that I brought up in an article. I said, well, Michael Jordan's a world-class athlete. Everybody agrees with that. Michael Jordan on a fast break has 2 men covering him. He's being double covered. He hits a fall-away jumper, and it's all net. Gets fouled. Michael Jordan, who hit a fall-away jumper with 2 guys on him, all net, is now on the foul line. Nobody's covering him. They're on the side. He's got 25 seconds, and all of a sudden he's doing this. What happened to all the talent? What's with the dribbling and the breathing? Why don't you just hit the free throw? What's going on? Well, he's initiating. He's not reacting. So now he has time to think, and thinking produces tension. So what those guys have learned to do to become better at free throws is they're visualizing the flight of the free throw. You see them doing it, and then they're reacting to that picture. That's how we can get an amateur to stop trying to help impact and stop being mechanical. When I have my students address the ball, I command them, like Bob Rotella does with people with putting. Look down the fairway, picture your flight, look at the ball. Look down the fairway, picture your flight, look at the ball. Picture the flight, look at the ball. You could do it 20 times like Hubie Green. I don't care if you do it 30. You could do it once. But the minute your eyes get back to that ball, pull the trigger. Now you're reacting to the picture and you're going to move more natural. If I see you come back to the ball and you stare at that ball, now all the demons are whispering, you suck. You're going to hit it out of bounds. Keep it low. Don't forget to cock your wrist. Go to parallel. Drive your arms down the top. This is the language that they've been programmed with from this internet. All this position crap. And again, if you love golf, I love you. But try and do 2 things as a teacher and your book will grow. When they show up and they're doing something wrong, say what they're doing wrong and then give them the cause. Don't look to fix the effect, fix the cause. And when you go to fix the cause, speak to them through a drill, because even if you get them to understand what you're saying and they agree, their body doesn't care what you two agree on. The body's going to do what it's doing out of habit. Now you have to break it like a wild bronco with a drill, independent of their brain. So if I told you, Brandon, your hips are frozen. You're picking the club up. You're not pivoting. Okay, Mike, I'm going to pivot on the next one. You didn't pivot, Brandon. Well, you agreed you were going to pivot. Your body didn't care. What I would do to you is I would tie your arms up to each other, and then I would tie them to your chest, and I wouldn't let you hit more than a half a shot. Now you're going to exaggerate this, carrying this, because your arms can't move unless you move. And I'll make you pitch bowls, 100 bowls, all tied up. That will break the habit of not pivoting.
Right. Right.
Let's suppose you're pivoting beautiful, but your arms, out of habit, are following the pivot inside because they're tight. I'm not going to tell you, hey, you're going inside. Don't do that. Do this. What I'll do to you, Brandon, is this. I'll make you touch your right ear, pivot, and then go out here to show you that the arms are swinging up on these sockets, which I shot up with WD-40, by the way. There's no cement in here. You know, you talk about Scotty Scheffler. People look at his footwork. I don't really care about his footwork. I see a core initiating and a core delivering, and I see arms that are going up in front of him, down and up in front of him. That's why he wins and nobody's beating him. He's always in front of his core. He's not manufacturing positions. He's swinging up, down, and up.
Mm-hmm.
There are people aware of this. I'm not saying I'm the only guy who knows and I'm the last link to Bill Melhorn. Melhorn had students that came and saw him. I have people writing me all the time, hey, I spent a year with Bill. I spent lessons with Bill. I love what you're doing. There's people that are aware of it. But I got to tell everybody that's teaching out there, they're also aware of when they're being BS'd and told a line of goods that doesn't work and just makes them more crazy. And now they don't even want to take lessons from anybody because they're so fed up with all the different opinions. So I say to them this. Can you get your arms to hang? Good. Throw a bowl lefty. Hey, look at that. You pivoted. Throw it righty. Hey, look at that. You unwound. You already know how to do it. Now hold it in your fingers and don't squeeze. You'll see my students online, whether they're new or young professionals. There's an aha moment when they go, I've been working too hard. Not only mentally, physically. I'm moving less with less muscle and I'm hitting it farther. Well, it goes back to the engineers that designed the wrecking ball. They designed that lead ball to hang from a cable, not a steel pole. Tension is the enemy. What breeds tension? Thinking. And there's my complaint with mainstream education. Too much thinking about positions. It's 1.5 seconds to swing.
Okay, I have a question about that. So there's in my mind, from a lot of the different people I talk to and see, there's a big difference between the golfer that learns, let's say the watershed moment might be like puberty. So the golfer that learns from a really young age, say before puberty, and that's most of the great golfers are that way. But almost all the people who take lessons are people that are learning golf in their 20s, usually probably their 40s or 50s and beyond, from when they're learning. So so it's great to be able to like go up there and just pull the trigger and just let things happen.
I see.
But if this golfer that is an adult learner just tries to go up and let things happen, I mean, it could go through your lanai. So what are the differences between how people who are adults and everything that they've done, they've built their business and everything, it's all been intentional through thinking. Now they have to kind of let it go and be more athletic. How can we get this kind of golfer to be more, like Wild Bill?
Excellent point. Question for you though. Has the person ever played golf before when they come to me? This supposed person?
They have played golf before, but they didn't start golfing until their, say, 30s.
Okay. And are they coming to me with some preconceived notions of what a golf swing is?
Yeah, they've probably taken it, like, for example, the people who watch Be Better Golf are like people that are obsessed with golf, but also with golf instruction. So they've heard a ton of tips So the typical be better golfer would be a person who started in their 30s or 40s, and now they've seen a lot of stuff, and they're trying to get better, but it's very difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff for them specifically.
Well, a couple of things, and I want you to monitor where I go because I can go far away from what you're asking easily. If they come to me and say they're interlocking and they're squeezing the club, and the right hand, Brett, look, the right hand is under the club. And they've been told, they think they're golf literate, that that's a strong grip. It prevents a cut and a slice. I tell them this. I have a selfish reason for wanting you to improve, and that is you're my walking billboard. When you say to somebody you took lessons from me and you're not improving, that's reflective of me. So I'm not going to allow that. Now, there are non-negotiables when you come to me for lessons. One of them is the grip. If you don't grip it in the fingers and learn to not squeeze, and I prove to them they don't have to squeeze, I show them why. But if you refuse to change that, I fire you as a student. You will not be my student because everything I teach is based on that grip and a revolving action. So what I say to people who are 35 years old and they're playing for 5 years and they come to me with a grip that's filled with tension, that their knuckles are pink and white, I have to break that. Now, if they never played before, I get the right grip and they leave with the right grip. The first day and the next lesson, it's still there. But when they come to me like this and they've been that way for 5 years, it could take me 5 weeks to where that grip is correct without them thinking. That's why my pre-shot routine is vital. You'll always see my students, they'll never address a ball down here. They always come up here first. And you know why that is? Because up here, the heavy end of the club, I can have it going that way. And it's easy for them to witness that they're not squeezing. And then I tell them, tilt it to the right and make sure that knuckle's there to support you. Then I let them do this, put their ass out and drop their arms. And I look at their hands. If their hands look like that, and then I tell them to go back up. And sometimes when they go back up, I see their palms are on there. That means they're squeezing. If you see a golf student hit a golf ball and they finish here, I know they're squeezing. Because if they weren't squeezing, the club would be here. Where it wants to be. It wants to swing here. So all these guys you see, Tommy Fleetwood won a tournament. Hey, everybody, we got to do what Tommy does. He won a tournament. Tommy's hitting a knockdown shot. He played in Europe a lot. He loves to hit knockdown shots, and he loves to hold it. That's a hold finish. That's a type of shot. It's not a golf swing. I hit that shot. It looks like this. But I don't tell my students that's the way you're going to swing now because this guy won a tournament. The most dangerous thing that happens is amateurs will follow who's ever leading on the tour. You're not built like him. You don't have his tempo naturally. And he's been doing it that way for a long time. And more so than that, he probably ruled and dominated the greens, the short game that weekend. So I've seen guys shoot 66 with a horrible golf swing. I've seen guys shoot 74 with a beautiful golf swing. It comes down to putting and chipping. But for the most part, I told you to monitor me because I'll go away from what you asked.
No, you're good.
So for the most part, when I get a student who's been playing for 5 years, and I get a lot of those, I have to it's like they say in martial arts, they come with a cup. I have to unfill it before I could fill it. I got to show them how easy this is. And usually I'll just walk up to a ball and hit it and I'll say, do you know that I had no idea what I just did? I visualized it and I went, well, I'd love to do that. And then I watched them address the ball and they look like the Ping logo. They're filled with tension and thoughts. So I kind of go like this to them. When I can get them to address the ball with their arms hanging and the correct grip, my next mission is to teach them that the club head doesn't move a centimeter until I start moving. It reacts to me. I don't react to it. I never tell my club go back, then my arms, then my shoulders, no, it's vice versa. The legs carry the hips carry the upper body, my arms are hanging from there. And why do I talk that way? Because that's what you'll see me do in every athletic action, from an axe to a baseball bat to a punch to a tennis. Why do I have to make a new laws of physics for the golf club?
What is the drill that you do that I think I saw in it was like it's like a college team had Bill out to give a demo or something, and he was showing them to hit shots only with his knees. That seems similar to some of what you were just saying there.
So
Do you know what that is?
that film was shot at my dad's driving range at the Fontainebleau. I was actually standing over there, but I was probably 10 or 11 or 12 years old. I was there. Um, Bobby Shave just happened to be the coach at FIU, and my dad let him practice there. And uh, Bill gave us a lecture to a few of the players that day. Somebody happened to film it. Now it's all over the internet. Mind you, Bill was probably 77, 79 years old. He had one lung. He was very ornery. He never really felt good, but he wouldn't tell you. Some of the things he was saying, it wasn't wrong. It's just over the years you get tired. So I try not to deviate from those things that you heard Bill say and what he taught my dad and what he taught me, but I try to relay it to each individual. If you come to me for lessons, I'm going to ask you a few questions because I have to know within 5 minutes how you learn. You might have to hear it. The next guy, I could talk all day. He doesn't hear a word I'm saying. He has to feel it. Maybe another one is a great athlete and he's a good mimicker. He has to see it. I have to visually demonstrate it. So I have to find out how you learn, right? But I also ask, what other sports have you played? And if you tell me hockey, I'll relate it to the golf swing. If you tell me tennis, ping pong, I can relate it. Baseball, I can relate something you did. And if you're a girl that never played a sport, it may sound chauvinistic. I'm going to say, have you ever swept the floor? Have you ever trapped dust particles into a dustpan? Well, that's what I feel at impact. That's what I feel. I don't flick them into the kitchen sink. I trap them into the pan.
Right.
That's what you know what I'm saying? I find something
Yeah.
a student can relate to. So you asked me, what do I do with the golfer that didn't play when they were little? It's not natural to them. I make it natural to them. I find a way to get them to hold the club naturally, softly, loose arms, good posture, and I teach them to pivot like they already know how to do. And I change them fairly quickly. People say, Mike, you're expensive. I'm like, really? I'm a fifth of what some of these guys are getting an hour that are giving you 500 thoughts to think of, and I'm changing you faster. I'm pretty affordable, but I I'm just I just I'm telling you, if you never played before, I'll have you hitting the ball that day. If you're playing for a while and you're holding it cockeyed, it's going to take me a few days to break that, even if you agree with it. So I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, that's good. Another question I have is, what do people have wrong about the backswing and downswing, especially when it comes to, like I saw when you were doing one of those drills, there's quite a bit of overlap between the backswing and downswing. So what is even that concept between backswing and downswing? How is that wrong?
Well, I always try to relate it to something where you don't think. So we're going to take a ball and we're going to toss it underhanded right now. Watch. Would you call this a backswing with a ball and this a follow through? I'm going to give you 5 balls. I'm going to put a bucket over there and you're going to toss them in. And what happens is when you're all done, it's always the same. I asked the student, how far back did you go with that? I don't know. How hard were you holding it? I don't know. When did you pivot? I don't know. When did you let it go? I don't know. Where was your weight? When? I don't know. Exactly. So the fact that people are asking that question
Mm-hmm.
makes it difficult because you're not supposed to be aware of it. When you are aware of the change in direction, we have problems. Now, I'll tell you what happens, no problem, but you're not to think about it. It happens. If your arms are at ease, they're waiting for you to move. That club's not gonna move until I do because these have been shot up with Novocaine. I have no tension in them. They're relaxed. I pivot. If you don't understand that this pivot it's going 1, 2, it's unwinding. Bill will take an old club and make you throw it and show you that you pivoted and you unwound when the club was still going that way. You were unwinding. And then he'll show you a picture. So the answer is, this is gravity. This is going to be loud. If these are dead weight, depending on the size of the pivot, when they run out of energy, they fall. And they don't fall into my body because my body's unwinding already. But I'll tell you this, they're going to feel like they're pulling you out of their sockets and you didn't use any muscle. That's real speed. And that's speed you can count on because the club's going to naturally release by itself. But if you have tension, yeah, you'll have to command. Put your elbow in your side. Shallow. You'll have to start talking all that nonsense if you're artificially firm, if you're mentally directing positions. But if you're at ease, the pivot swings them up, they fall, and it's over. There's nothing to think about.
How can most people that you see get more power and swing it faster, do you think?
Well,
what's some of the common ways that they're leaking power?
The most common cause of a lack of speed is tension. The easiest way to increase speed is to lose all the tension in your arms and learn what timing is. So here's two swings I'm going to show you. Both of them are going to have a good pivot and both are going to have me unwinding. But one of them has me unwinding at the right time. And that's the one that gives me speed. The second one, my hips unwound before my arms finished going.
There's some overlap.
The first one I paused, inviting this. So when a student's doing that from a beautiful place, I don't accuse them of going over the top. I don't even discuss it with them. I give them this drill. One hand only, pivot, unwind. And all of a sudden they start feeling this. They start feeling a lag and the shaft going this way, not that way. But as long as they go back and this pauses, there's going to be an invitation to go that way. But again, I have to be very, very careful. I don't want to become the enemy. I don't want to become the person that makes them think too much. So I might say to them, hey, yeah, you are going over the top a little. You could see your divots right to left. You could see the balls hitting a pull slice. I don't need an $800 launch monitor to tell you that. The ball flight told you that. But what I will tell you is this. We could fix it if you do this drill. And I give them a drill. And they hit a ball. I give them the drill. They hit a ball. I give them the drill. All of a sudden, their timing starts to change. And they're not going over the top anymore. This is given that they're holding the club correctly. And their arms are at ease, right? So, non-negotiables. The grip and the revolving body. Those are the two things. I'll work around injuries. I'll work around tempos, body types. Doesn't matter. But I'm not going to work around a terrible grip or stationary feet and hips.
Now, when you say grip, the things that you've talked about a lot is it's got to be in the fingers, and then you can't squeeze it. Are you okay with a different amount, a different area of where the V's are pointed, and maybe a different amount of knuckles they're seeing? Or is that also something that's really important to you? Like, can some people be stronger or weaker?
No.
No. Do you really have to, the position has to be the same too?
I would say unless you're deformed, this is the way your arm hangs. Mm-hmm. When I start to see you walk around like this, I'll let you hold the club like that.
Okay.
That's the way your arm hangs. Now, the reason this is so important, Bill said after you take your grip, remove the last three fingers of both hands. And he'd make me hit balls like this. Just my forefinger and thumb. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about feeling like you're going to lose the club, but I don't lose it. If this is moving, I don't lose it. But now he'd say, just put them on for the ride. And don't open them. Keep them curled. If the player does a little of this in the address, see it? When he takes his backswing, there'll be a threat of this happening. He won't let it. He'll squeeze with this hand. So I don't allow this because I know what it promotes. It promotes that, squeezing. This promotes this being soft because I have an insurance policy now. See it?
Yeah, I see.
And this seam that's here, that protects it from wanting to collapse this way. So people think they're okay with this. Hey, my knuckle's on the side. Yeah, but this is wide open. You're dead. Because when you go back and it lags, it's going to collapse. But you won't let it collapse. You'll squeeze. Then you're like this at impact and you want to know why you're hitting a push slice. Well, I don't want to fix the push slice. I want to fix what's going on and causing it. It's up here. And guess what? It's not up here. It's right here. So I'll always trace cause and effect back to the fundamental posture, address, ball position, and grip. If this is all good, and now we start to see ball flights we don't like, I'll find it. But at least it's not from the fundamental setup and grip. It might be your timing. It might be lateral movement.
All right. Well, this was great. I've taken up a lot of your time. I really appreciate it. If people are interested in coming to visit you and get a lesson with you, or first, how can they see some of these videos that you've been putting up?
So if everybody here goes to montesgolf.com, MONTES golf.com, at the top of my website are icons for TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. On the site itself, I have people who want to perhaps fly in from whatever country or state they're in. I have 3-day camps available. There's plenty of spots left this winter. I have a 3-day camp every month. If you're here in Florida, I'm at Chicha Rodriguez Golf Club in Clearwater. If you're unable to attend live, you can visit me on sneed.app and take a virtual lesson where you can be. I just gave another one to a young professional in Ireland today. It's very productive. I just can't put my hands on him and manipulate his body, but it's the same as being there other than that. And he's progressing. And another young pro in Venezuela. I've got students all over the country, but I am especially proud that the young professionals are starting to see the light that they've hit a brick wall in their progress, and they understand that they're thinking too much and they're not fluid, you know? So that's the way to get to me. The best way is the site, and you can go anywhere from there.
Awesome. Great.
And I
Thank you.
want to say one other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
People say, hey, Mike, where have you been? No, a lot of people don't bring it up, but a lot of people say, you got all these fellows on the internet. Where have you been? I took 11 years away from golf. I was kind of burnt out. I was teaching 60 lessons a week. And I hit a brick wall in my competitive dream. And I went into business, and I learned an awful lot by being in business. I had a couple of retail things, and then I was running a company, and the owner of that company taught me much about business and marketing. And I've got a lot of that to share as well. So when I meet young professionals, especially, I try to also show them that golf is such a beautiful game, because in your effort to become a better golfer, it forces you to become better at certain things that have nothing to do with golf, like patience, discipline. All these things I learned in golf, I relate to business and vice versa. And you're running a successful company now. You can't not hit balls in your business.
Yeah, right.
You have to do the work. But there are ways. If you're a teaching professional and you don't have any aspirations to be a playing professional, one day I'd like to talk to you about the difference between the two. But if you're aspiring to be a teaching professional and you want to grow your following, whether it's online or live, there are things you need to know from a business standpoint that you're not taking care of. You're not marketing properly. You're not networking properly. So I can help them with that too.
Great. When you were in Miami, did you ever run across Bobby Lopez, who's he's a friend of mine. He's a teacher up in Virginia and North
Bobby
Carolina.
Lopez used to work for my dad.
Okay. Yeah. He's a real good friend of mine. So he's probably like 12 years older than you or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. He
Cool.
knows me. He knows my dad. I was a little kid when he was there, but yeah. So that's another podcast. But growing up in Miami, the son of Sal Monte, and having Wild Bill, and all the characters that came through,
Sure.
there's a lot to talk about that have nothing to
Yeah.
do with golf.
Yeah. I'd love to hear some of those gambling stories.
Yeah.
I'm sure this sure
Hopefully,
great.
you and I can get together again.
We will. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So much. All right. Talk to you soon. Stay on the line. I'm going to stop the recording.